listening to the Betmaker Show. This is the NFL Wild Card Weekend Preview, Part 1, for Monday, December 30th, 2019. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
Well, it's hard to fathom, but the regular season is behind us. It'll be short and sweet today, but packed with information. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, and we're going to our go-to man, Jack, one of the top odds makers on the globe, and the numbers for Wild Card Weekend. Crazy regular season, Jack, and only fitting the way it ends. Were you watching that Seattle-San Fran game, and at the end of that game, did you not think back to Seattle blowing the Super Bowl against the Patriots? I mean, how egregious was that? The delay of game, the ball at the 1-inch line, and then a pass, and he stopped at the 1-inch line. That was insane.
The crowd was ready to go berserk. They went crazy before when Lynch scored, and they were sending them into the lineup. And it's going to be that short run like they should have done in the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, it's delay a game, and everything gets changed.
Well, the crazy thing is, they won't say this, but his addition cost him the game because they threw him in there, but the situation didn't dictate for him to run the ball there anyway. They had no timeouts, so you throw it a couple times, and then you bring him in to throw it over the top, and then they get a delay game. That's just an egregious mismanagement by Wilson, by the coaches, the personnel. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, literally, it probably cost Seattle here in terms of what their ultimate goals were, and who knows how. And now they got to go cross country. It's just insane. And then the officials. That one game had so many things in it that we've talked about all year long. It looked like a blatant pass interference right before that that they didn't even look at. What's the point of the rule?
Well, I guess because it was inside the 2-minute mark, I guess Carroll couldn't challenge it, right?
That's right.
So
the league had to buzz in, but they haven't even had the willingness to overturn calls when they were challenged. And the league, of course, in the ivory towers, we reviewed it. My butt they did.
Yeah, well, if they reviewed it, they did a very bad job.
Anyway, it ended in crazy fashion.
He was holding on to the guy.
Yeah. Oh, just nuts. Week 17, just another, we talk about it on the front end, just a very quick recap. What an odd Sunday of football games. Just really weird football games, all kinds of things with teams that weren't motivated, misinformation from coaches. It was just another goofball Week 17.
It's such a big business, and you think it would be so organized, but it comes down to like little kids playing on a sandlot again. Just miscommunication, not doing the right thing, goofing off, not getting in the lineup, not perhaps running the wrong play. It's all crazy stuff that happens every week.
All right, sir. So let's have at it. We've got 4 games, Wild Card Weekend, and these are usually games that are very entertaining. And you've got some crazy games that can be, when you think over the history of the league. Wild Card Weekend, you see some crazy shootouts. I can see one maybe that fits that bill. Maybe not so much in the others. I would say certainly not in the first game. Buffalo and Houston, why don't you give us your thought process here in terms of hanging the number for this AFC Wild Card game?
Well, unlike the regular season, we couldn't hang this number on Saturday morning. We had to wait and see what the matchups were going to be, and then we had to wait for the legal office to wait for the last game to end to say, okay, here's where this team is playing, here's the time they're playing, so we can set up in our system correctly. So when they finally did it with Buffalo and Houston, we opened at 3-41. It's now 3 dog a little money and 42 under 15. And I think Buffalo is the better team. Going out to play Houston in their home field is going to be tough, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this number come down.
Honestly, it's weird, but it almost seems at the 11th hour, some respect for the Bills, at least in terms of the number, and then we'll see what the market does with it. But Thanksgiving Day at Dallas, they were 6.5, and both of these teams are better than Dallas.
Right. And Buffalo, I think, will have a chance to prove it, and as one of the stats that was flashed on the screen yesterday is towards the end of the year that Allen for Buffalo had 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I mean, compare that with some of the other quarterbacks, and that's a great showing.
Well, Jack, I am a longtime Bills fan, and I follow everything they do, and I read something this morning that I didn't know, and I would think this one's really going to fall through the cracks. We know their defense is very good. This defense may be better than very good. They only had one game this year where they allowed more than 25 points, and that was a game that was 7-3 going to the half, and Allen fumbled deep in his own end, and then it was just a goofball game, and Philly put up 37. The other games, they have not allowed more than 25 points. That ties only a handful of teams in NFL history. We're talking the last 80 years that have only allowed one game with more than 25 points. The bottom line is the Bills are in every game because of that defense.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at the two teams that scored 24 points against them are three teams where New England scored 24, and they had to make a 2-point conversion and get a few be the beneficiaries of some lucky plays, we'll call it. Baltimore scored 24, and then Baltimore scores more than 24 on almost everybody. And naturally, as you said, the Eagles, which was sort of flukish. So, the defense is there. They give up 16.2 points a game. They're ranked second in the NFL. I mean, everything is there for it. They just have to put on offense. Allen's going to have to play well, not do any turnovers, which he's been managing lately. And they have a real good chance to win this game.
Yeah, and there's a guy I would think that's a key to this game, and thankfully all the BS during the week, all the Bills were going to play their starters. Well, they identified the most important guys. I don't even know why they threw Josh Allen out there at all against the Jets, and they did lose, and we'll see what his status will be. Their opposite starting cornerback, Levi Wallace, got hurt in the game, but Trey White, all the hype that goes with Stephon Gilmore, Trey White is the exact same player, and the head-to-head matchup, if Trey White can take Hopkins away from Houston, the Bills have a monster shot. I mean, the cornerback for the Bills might be the key guy to the whole thing.
It could be. Like you said, their defense giving up 16 points. Houston, I think, averages around 24 points a game. So I think their average is going to go down. Buffalo averages 19, but Houston gives up 23 points a game. So they should go up. It's a pick 'em game. I really think on a neutral field, Buffalo is a little better, but we'll see how Allen does in the playoffs.
All right, let's move on. Tennessee and New England, both AFC games are on Saturday, and we're seeing a little action here from the market. Tell us about the opener and where this number's going.
We opened 5.5 and 42.5. We're down to 4.5 on the side and up to 44 on the total. Tennessee is a team that puts points on the board ever since Tannehill had his resurgence here. New England, could they look worse than they looked yesterday? No. I think that's affected the market a little, and I think rightfully that it should. I think towards the end of the year, Tennessee might have been playing ball as well as New England, and New England's last games are nothing to hang your head on. They could have lost the Buffalo game. Cincinnati was a phony win as far as the score goes, and they lost to Kansas City. So they're not setting the world on fire. I think Tennessee's another live dog, much like Buffalo.
It's crazy. I mean, honestly, I can see both road dogs, both wild card teams. Honestly, I think have a big shot to win, and it's a low number for the Patriots at home in Foxborough. And I don't care who you are. I mean, it's Belichick and it's Brady, and this was a flawed team, and they didn't play a tough schedule, but there they were, sitting with an opportunity to have a home game at Foxborough, Jack, and be one game away from the Super Bowl again, and squander the opportunity against Miami. And if Miami's offense, can kind of light them up like that, what Tennessee's doing with Tannehill, and he is playing at a very high level. And then, oh, by the way, I think that you can make
your boy, Derrick Henry.
Well, exactly. Well, you make the case. They got the best running back in football, and the guy leads the league in rushing and took a week off, and they didn't give him the ball half the damn time. Right? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I am still you have no idea, Jack, how bitter I am. I mean, it cost me my fantasy league that this kid sat in week 16. I mean, he's a horse, and then the play calling sometimes drives you nuts. where, at the end of the game, the fourth quarter, they said, okay, the game's in hand. He said, he needs 50 yards to lead the league in rushing. So give him the ball, and he gets like 110 yards in the fourth quarter. Well, why don't you just do that the whole game?
I'm sure they have their reasons. I'm not aware of them, but there must be some method to their madness. But I like we said, I think Tennessee's a live dog here, and ever since Tannehill took over the reins, I didn't think it would be much of a difference, but it has been, and he's reignited that offense, and they can play with New England. I mean, would you imagine if you had Miami season bets under, that you go to the last game of the season, you're a 17-point road dog, and you win outright. To lose your bet, you'd have to go crazy.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. Jack, do you pay attention to such things? I mean, clearly this is a different team once Tannehill took the reins. And we know New England's has had all year long the best defense. Again, the schedule, a lot of it was kind of, pedestrian, but they had to play a tough window in the middle. But do you pay attention? We know what Tennessee's look like, but they've gone over the total 9 of their last 10 games. Does that factor? I mean, it's it's only a 16-game window. I mean, they're just on a dead heater scoring points. How do you think about the total in relation to that? Do you pay attention to streaks of that nature?
Sure, you have to look at from when Tannehill took over, and as you said, not only his taking over led to increased points per game, the defense seemed to become. Well, I guess there were more. Tannehill's throwing so much, as you said, they're not handing the ball off. They're throwing most of the time, leading to more plays. And the more plays you have, there's a ratio between plays and points. So the more plays you pack into a game, the higher the game is scoring. So he's throwing most of the downs. They're scoring a lot, quick drives. Their defense is on the field more plays for the other team, and so the points have to go up. Yeah, we look at that considerably.
In Belichick, I tell you, the crazy thing is, we'll move on from this, but we always say Belichick, with the weapons they have, is kind of the offensive juggernaut coming into the postseason when Belichick tries to take something away, and they're loaded. It's so foreign to consider Tennessee this offensive machine.
It is. I mean, it was nobody anticipated going into the season. Nobody anticipated through the first 5 games or 6 until Tannehill took over and hit stride. And Belichick does have a tough decision. He can take one thing away, but he can't take. It's tough to take both away from Tennessee unless they just have an off day. So it'll be a very fascinating matchup. All
right, Minnesota's at New Orleans. Let's move to Sunday, and this is an intriguing one. New Orleans offensively, they're on a dead run. It's a question of health with Minnesota, but if they're fresh and have the running back, a dangerous football team, but the biggest number on the board.
It is. This game opened at 7-47. Right now it is 8-47.5. And I think the point is 7 was a fair number because of New Orleans' superior home field advantage. But Minnesota is going in the opposite direction of New Orleans. New Orleans is playing as well as they can play right now, and Minnesota off the Green Bay game, and then where they basically skipped a week there, trying to rest up their players. Maybe it'll pan out for them, maybe it won't, but the Saints are on fire. Thielen has not been the same since he came back. I think that's one of the problems, putting the load on Diggs. And Kirk Cousins has that record about not being very good against very good above 500 ball clubs. So it's a tough matchup, and I don't see this number coming down. It may briefly, but I think it goes back up.
Yeah, I mean, the gray area for you and for the players is trying to project, is Minnesota showing up, the team from 3-4 weeks ago, or are they showing up a mash unit team? But if Cook comes back and he can run the ball, and albeit Thielen's done very little, but they've had no running game since he returned. It's almost like you draw a line through Thielen. It really comes down to Cook, right?
It does. It comes down to Cook, and this is perhaps the best defense New Orleans has ever had, and I don't think he's going to be able to turn the day for them. I think it has to be the Saints' way, and God knows we'll be loaded on teasers with the Saints.
All right, and then the get-out game. We've talked about this ad nauseum, that the NFC champion would be a dog at home. The funny thing is, you're looking at the consensus out there now is 1.5 with Seattle coming across to be the favorite. I guess the question I would pose to you, Jack, if the Seattle game that we alluded to at the top had not ended in such egregious fashion, would this number have been higher in favor of Seattle? It was that. How much was that factored into this opening number? Just the air out of the balloon with the ability to play at home, a bye, and now you got to go cross country, and you just wonder how big a punch to the gut that defeat was.
Well, at halftime, I think most of the world, you could tell by the halftime wagering, that most of the world didn't give Seattle any chance at all. And then all of a sudden they were unstoppable in the second half, and I think that's the imprint that is fresh on the mind of the bettors right now. We opened Philly 1 on the bottom and 46. Right now, as you said, it's Seattle 1.5 on top. They do get the one advantage that the NFL let them play. This is the later game on Sunday, so you don't have that breakfast game there. And I think Philly is as good as Seattle. I think the Seattle defense has problems. Now, if Russell Wilson starts hitting like he did in the second half, there's nothing anybody can do. But he's probably going to be somewhere between his first half performance and his second half performance. So I think Philly is a live dog here.
Well, it is the NFL, and the bottom line is, listen, teams rally around this. It ended up a little better, right? At least they ended up 9-7. But that almost would have been the definition of the NFC East if both Philly and Dallas had lost yesterday coming in.
Yes, that would have been something.
Players rally around stuff like that, though, right? I mean, Philly all week long. All teams do this. They're going to sit there and go, nobody thinks we should be here, and circle the wagons and blah 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 blah. You know what? The bottom line is, they're in, and they have a home game.
Right, and those are the quotes you will hear, that nobody respects us. We're playing at home. We're the conference championship. We're the conference champion, and we're an underdog at home. And you'll hear all this stuff, but it really just gets settled on the field. They can say what they want, but Seattle pumped themselves up for a game about how they got perhaps mistreated by the referees. They'll have their personal vendetta, and the game will be decided on the field as it always is, not by the quotes.
Okay, and we're seeing, like you said, 1.5. So it's that zone where one nugget of news or a little piece of information or something could send this number one way or the other. I mean, what do you anticipate? We'll wrap it up with this. And where do you think this number closes, Jack?
I think it backs up to 1. I don't think it gets near 3. If it gets near 3, it's going to be 3-dog money, and I think it'll be snapped up as soon as it shows.
All right, Jack. Only 4 games in the NFL this weekend, but these guys all now center stage with the spotlight, and let the postseason fun begin. I always appreciate your time, buddy. It's been a fast season. Always great information. I want to wish you and the gang Happy New Year. Enjoy the wild card weekend.
Same to you, your family, and all the production crew there and their families, and I've enjoyed it as much as you have.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com. And reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.